All right. I guess sent this video on my Discord by Ask the Cheese. Ask the Cheese. And so I have no history with this history behind the warrior, right? Fellow. So I had a brief look through his channel. Obviously he goes into in-depth in regards to Mortal Kombat or characters in general for their history and whatnot. So yeah, let's jump into this. Having some ice cream.
Hello everyone, it's History Behind the Warrior, and welcome back to another video. A video that, admittedly, I've tried to make quite a few times now, but honestly have really struggled to put together, because this is one that I want
This dude's got like that type of voice where, you know, I'm expecting like a nature video. You know, it's like out in the wild, the gazelle roams across the... so I'm doing the wrong voice. Why am I doing the wrong one? Anyway, he sounds like he could narrate, you know, like Planet Earth type video. You know what I'm saying? And let's continue.
Express my thoughts and feelings without getting too heated. And honestly, I just don't think that's quite possible for me to do. So keep in mind that going forward, I'm going to be pretty real and transparent about how I feel, because I'm in both a mixed and irritated position to talk about the state of Mortal Kombat 1 as an overall final product. So for those unaware or who may be living under a rock, NetherRealm have more or less concluded their coverage and developmental cycle of Mortal Kombat 1, marking it as the shortest NetherRealm game to date, which is ultimately pretty disappointing because 1, how long we waited for this game to be released, and 2, what we were told about its future throughout the game's promotion. That is something I will be touching on a bit later.
Well, hang on. When did MK11 come out? MK11 came out, what, 2019? It meant that there was, what, a good couple of years, give or take, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, please. I'm just checking the Steam store page. And then, yeah, 2019 in April. So, and then obviously there was a good couple of years. And then, obviously, you know, we had the whole Koof thing happen as well in between that. But yeah, no, it is a very, very short development cycle. And of course, this video is 3 days old. So, naturally, since then, we've had official confirmation about the end of this. So
on. And whilst NetherRealm has not outright come out with a statement addressing the end of the support, throughout the studio's history, the Ultimate and Definitive Edition of games have always typically marked an end to each installment, from Mortal Kombat 9's Complete Edition all the way to Mortal Kombat 1's Definitive Edition. Thus, whilst we may get patches here and there moving forward, I do not expect to hear anything in terms of DLC. Now, to really talk about this whole situation, we do have to work our way from the very top all the way down to the bottom. What works, what doesn't work, and what just really pisses me off about the game. Because across my entire 10 year of covering games on this channel, never have I tackled something that's been so unbearably miserable to cover. From start to finish, this game has been a dreadful experience, effectively killing a lot of passion that I do have for content creation. And the problems range from a variety of different reasons, from promotion to marketing to gameplay to its contents and its community. So let's go to the very top and work our way through it. First, touching on the promotion of Mortal Kombat 1. And I'm not going to sugarcoat this at all. The way the last two MKs have been promoted have been awful. The switch from a 12-month structure of promotion to a 4-month structure has been jarring to say the least, making whatever material we see feel rushed, and it clearly doesn't give the team enough time and breathing room to let the games flourish.
in case you're wondering, yes, I am struggling because the cat is trying to steal my ice cream. Look, he's back up here again. Look at this. You stay
That's where
there.
combat casts used to thrive, because there was enough time in between trailers and its promotion that allowed for the community to feel more interactive. We don't get that anymore, and I find that to be incredibly depressing. Because of this lack of promotional structure, it's made it nigh impossible to get a proper heads up for when a new...
Out in the wild, we're looking at a gazelle over on the field. right? But it's not looking too hot because it's run into a lion, right? And it's not. I don't know why I'm doing this shit, man. Like I just... bottle of water. Anyway,
The trailer does drop, as we're only notified a day or two before it actually comes out. It's been horrible, and honestly I feel like the sudden switch to a 4-month strike
I can kind of recognize some of these people, kind of. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is Johnny Tobias. I could be wrong. I actually, you know, I probably am wrong. Right, we've also got the I'm sorry. I'm just every time I look at this dude, I'm confused. Am I seeing like a? Anyway, right. We got Super in the back. We got Foxy. Cool shirt though. I've got to admit, that's a great shirt, Foxy. It looks like History's there in the back, and Show on a Dog, all the way in the back where he belongs. Vera. And Brass. I don't know who those two are. Don't know who this dude is. Yeah. Anyway.
structure has greatly crippled its content creator community, as we're not given a year to create interesting content surrounding the game, and with it coming out in such a short amount of time, I feel like it's really hindered newer content creators to the scene. With a smaller window of opportunity, it means that everyone's covering the same topics and gunning for the top promotional spot, and bombarding your feed in a way where content is simply lost in the fold.
No, not my content. My content's original. I may not be the biggest YouTuber, but everyone knows who I am. Wonder why that is. Charm, my personality.
Tight time frame simply doesn't allow the
You know, what I'd love to do, right? Because some of these people in this shot don't like me. That's fine. Right before they take the shot, right, they yell out, "Holy shit, Fate's over there," and every grin would disappear. They'd be like,
next generation of content creators to grow. Now,
it's
credit
true.
is given where it's due. The trailers produced for the course of MK1's reveal was fucking stellar. That I can't take away from them. They
I
did
can.
an incredible job selling.
No, I can. I'll take it away from. Will you? No, get no. Over here. Come on. Over here. Look. You got a nerve. He's made me skip half the video. Just go over there, you crack addict.
Difference with how a game tells it's
There you go.
produced for the cause of this lack of promotional structure. Crippled frame simply I can't take away from them. They did an incredible job selling us on the characters, the story, and the gameplay.
No.
Especially with the fact that they were
No.
extremely transparent with who you would be getting as DLC extremely early on. Because if you know anything about me, I'm really against blind waves of DLC. Because in my mind, if you buy a Game of the Year edition, you should know what you're goddamn paying for.
I
So
agree.
in that regard, they did do that right.
I do
Which
agree.
now, of course, does bring us onto the game itself. Now, for the sake of not repeating myself verbatim,
go.
I will only be briefly touching on the story mode here. If you want a full in-depth deep dive analysis of it, please do check out these thumbnails here, as they will link you to my full-on breakdown of both the game's base story and Chaos Reigns.
TLDR, the both shit.
But just to gloss over my personal thoughts from then to now, as many of you do know, I like the story for MK1 for the most part, at least in its early stages. I think there's a number of things it does right in its first few chapters that really feels like it works to the benefit of MK, having it feel in line with the series as it embraces its tournament and martial arts roots. That is,
What bloody tournament? Nothing about this felt like it was being engaged in a tournament. Right? All that happened, right, was that it went to it went to what do you call it, to Outworld, and that was it, right? Like that was
reports from Vent.
like they did the training on Earthrealm, but there was no like Shang Tsung tournament or anything. They just wandered off to Outworld and had some fisticuffs in just weird play, you know, like here's Quinn said, I was just gonna fight right now. It's like,
To now, as many of you do know, I like the story for MK1 for the most part, at least in its early stages. I think there's a number of things it does right in its first few chapters that really feels like it works to the benefit of MK, having it feel in line with the series as it embraces its tournament and martial arts roots. That is, until later on, where it fully decides to cast those ideas aside and effectively revert to the same gimmick and issues we have with MK11. But instead of having time travel being the main issue and gimmick, we have the multiverse stuff. And the thing is that this is just dumb. Time travel and multiverse theory really just isn't inherently MK. And it's anything but what the series needs to tackle. In my mind, the only time that such a thing was excusable was back in MK9, because whilst it made like no sense in universe, it served as a symbolic passing of the torch from the midway era of MK to that of the NetherRealm Studios era. Whilst I think the idea of the series ascending to that of the cosmic plane could work, as Geras is a perfect example of how that can work well.
Can't
The
stand that
multiverse
character.
stuff pushes hard and far beyond
can't stand that
threshold.
character, man.
Having it so the story mode kind of loses the essence about what
Why would you change Sindel from how she was looking? Right, like why would you change how Sindel looks from the old timeline? Because they had other, like they had that other version of Raiden that looked like the old timeline version. But why didn't they do that with Sindel? They should have had the one that looked like MK11.
allows MK to feel like MK. And this now takes us onto characterization. And this is a fucking weird bag for me, because the new rendition of characters fundamentally work for some, but completely falter for others. Not all changes here are bad. In fact, there are some that are honestly fantastic. But there are indeed some instances here where changes have been applied for the sake of change.
Why not by Cast Reigns? Oh, for a wedding.
To tell a new story with an older character and somewhat reinvent them. And whilst I don't think that's entirely a terrible idea, when you inherently have a character that's been this established for this long and is this popular, alterations like this causes nothing but friction and problems. So the way I like to put it here is that for every Baraka, you are gonna get one Kuai Liang Sub-Zero. But here's the thing with MK1, and I really want to touch and focus on this, as I do feel there's a distinct difference with how a game tells its story and how it handles its lore. MK1 as a story is told really well in the early parts of its narrative, because it's given the benefit of re-establishing its world and characters. By not intertwining itself back to that of the old lore and mythos, it allows it to divert and gain its own sense of identity. But the very second the multiverse stuff is implemented, is where all of that stuff is convoluted. So everything that this new reboot tried to re-establish is immediately out the window, because the reintegrating lore with the current canon really collides with the older source material. It effectively loses the benefit of becoming its own thing. So of course now, it brings up the question of, where do we go here narratively? And well, honestly, I don't know. People are calling for another reboot, and honestly, I think it's way too extreme and frankly lacks purpose. Plus, if anything, another reboot like this could essentially put us in the same exact position we are now.
You don't reboot, you reset. Or you re-cleanse, if you will, right? You re-cleanse the timeline, right? Me and Total MK talked about this, and I'll tell you guys again. What would be the best way to fix this, right? So you start off the next story, right? It starts off like super weird and dumb shit like this crap here. This smiling idiot over here, right? Anyway, a Naga like breaks out of the pyramid or something. It's just like Rolf stomping all across the land, burning everything, smashing everything, killing everyone, right? He gets his hands on the Kamidogo. The Kamidogo formed in the original timeline at a fixed point, right? As soon as he activates them, right, something happens and it literally destroys everything and takes you back all the way to the the creation of the Kamidogu. Because the Kamidogu and the Dragon King, they're the only ones that can, cause this kind of like catastrophic event. That's how you do it, right? And then when it goes back and it starts off at that point, what would be really cool is the fact that like the game just like the in-game, everything, how it looks and stuff like that is the way the new game looks. So they do this pussy looking realistic crap. And then we shoot all the way back, and I've advocated for this myself, that the artwork and the design of the world should be done in a more comic book style, like what John Tobias drew for the characters back in the day. Actually design the world in that type of style, but make it dark, gritty, Asian aesthetic, that sort of thing. But use the actual comic book style, for the world itself. And yeah, that'd be a hell of a fucking opener, man.
Acceptable to the exact same mistakes. I know others have suggested a Crisis on Infinite Earths event, something that can meld timelines together, mending characterization issues and remedying some alterations people have, but that idea also delves into more of the multiverse stuff that everyone does not like. In my mind, there's only like 2 avenues they can go down to make this all work. And the first is to stick to the current continuity and slowly ease our characters back to who they were prior to the reboot. Tinkering a lot of those changes and allowing us to finally have that Onaga storyline.
No. The only way, it's my and Total MK's way or the highway. Nah. I do not want this fucking new era. I don't want them to entertain it anymore. It's not. It is just a complete waste, and it's an absolute insult to the MK character and lore that they've had for 30 years. This singular image right here goes harder than anything in the game. Right? The only way you fix this, as far as I'm concerned, is through the Kamidogu and Onaga, but you don't continue on the story. You continue on like I stated. He breaks out of the pyramid or prison, wherever he's in, just fucking destroys everyone. Right? And it's a complete cleanse. Right? And he gets his hands on the Kamidogu. He does a Thanos snap, except in this instance, it literally, the Kamidogu, like pull itself back to when it was created. And the only place it was created was in the original timeline. And it completely nullifies everything outside of it as if it didn't exist. No reference of it. No nothing. There is not a single whisper of this new piss era ever again.
And no, I won't accept a 30-minute opening that concludes it like Shinnok in MKX or Dark Raiden in MK11. Give me that goddamn Dragon King. And the other option, too, and honestly, one I'm surprised no one has brought up, we simply follow the timeline and continuity set forth with the Liu Kang and Katana ending. Because honestly, in my mind, that's like a fairy tale ending. And the perfect branching point to take what works with MK1's narrative and what people liked about characters from the 9 continuity onwards. You also narratively get to run the excuse of not having Liu need to change everyone, because it's not just him envisioning this new entire world. He has Katana by his side to temper his alterations. So the Mortal Kombat 1 timeline...
Does he want a Friends episode? Listen. I'll be there for you when the blood starts to fall. I'll be there for you when the fatalities begin to crawl. I don't know what the fuck. Right. It doesn't really matter. I don't want that shit. Let's go back to a prequel. Having the Kamidogu destroyed by the Dragon King resets everything back to the original timeline to a point in time where we actually get a prequel series to see the coming up and the first champion of Mortal Kombat, the Great Kung Lao.
Can still exist as it still does happen, but it's simply just a continuity that we don't follow from this point onwards. Kind of like MK vs DC in that regard. Because of it no longer being tied to the canon, you could effectively have it be conquered by Onaga, who at a later date can become a threat that's on par with the one being. and sets up as the next big bad. Now, if we don't wish to follow that avenue, because let's face it, at some point we're gonna have to hit the ceiling of reusing and retelling older ideas in this universe, I do think maybe Mortal Kombat could step into the more cosmic side of the narrative, with the Titans and their wards effectively being the next best go-to option here. And honestly, I do really hope they tackle this idea at some point, using their wards as a sign of their arrival. These individuals could effectively serve as mouthpieces to tell us what exactly are the Titans. Because honestly, at this point, with it being established, it drives my mind crazy how untapped it is.
I hate the Titan shit. I fucking hate the Titan shit. It is stupid, right? It sounds like, and I love playing World of Warcraft, believe me, but that's the kind of shit in World of Warcraft. I'm actually wondering if there's somebody on the team that plays WoW, because they got the Titan shit in there too. Or the Titans, right? No, just scale it the fuck back. Just have the Elder Gods, have Earthrealm and Outworld, keep it simple, right? And if you eventually branch out, you go to other realms, right? From there. Because you don't, this is dangerous territory, right? And this is the sort of shit that Marvel did. They just instantly, like in Phase 4, not instantly, but in Phase 4, they just, everything's space. Almost everything was space, right? And it takes you away from that grounded sort of reality that we got with the MCU, from all the way back from, say, and I'm going to point it out here first, the Incredible Hulk, because I believe that came out before Iron Man, or maybe it was after, either one of those two, Iron Man or Incredible Hulk, all the way to Endgame. You bookend it, right? That was a good bookend. Okay? Okay? Right, so all you do is you just go back to the timeline, you give us the prequel series of Mortal Kombat, and then we go forward from there. Alright? Please, none of this. This is just too, it's too cosmic. It's too much. Right? We don't need it. We need it brought back to reality.
Yeah, it does kind of break the mythos a bit with the One Being, but it can easily be remedied. You could simply say that the Titans now were the first age of Elder Gods who defeated the One Being, and upon his fall they would ascend to a higher plane and leave their kin to safeguard his remains, allowing them to travel the planes of reality in hopes of performing the same gift of life he did, only to fall to the madness of the void in the abyss. And there, wham, instantly fix your Titan situation. I know some of you really want a conquest mode, but I'm just gonna have to be super real with you, man. We're never getting something like that again. Lord knows that I'm hoping I'm dearly wrong about this, but I think the sooner we can accept that a conquest mode is simply never being implemented or returning, the easier that bitter pill will be to swallow, because they haven't made one in nearly 20 years, and I really don't see them changing that formula anytime soon.
Well, maybe they should. I've talked about this at length. Maybe they should. It's not hard. It's very easy to do. Right? MMOs do it all the time. Okay? If you make Conquest an open world game with cinematic storytelling within the framework of the initial launch and then subsequent patches, subsequent expansions, you could easily do it. You keep people engaged, you keep people playing in a Mortal Kombat MMO in the world. Right? Perfect. It could easily be done. Easily. Right? They don't do it because, you know, yeah, you get to experience this story. Well, what is it? It's a bunch of cutscenes with a couple of fights in between. Basically. There's nothing integral about it. Right? But in Conquest, okay, you were running around. You were performing quests and side quests and stuff like that and exploring. You don't have any of that shit. Maybe they need to step away from it.
So, story aside, this now takes us onto the gameplay side of things. Starting with the roster, and honestly on my end, I think this is a great blend of different characters from different eras of MK. However, it's far from perfect in that regard, and the parts that I do take issue with on the roster is just the amount of guest characters we do have here is just like, it's way too much. Whilst I think the quality of the...
Yeah, it's 6 too much. Stop putting guest characters in my fucking fighting game. Right? Mortal Kombat up until MK9 was one of the few fighting games left that didn't end up with guest characters or crossover characters from other fighting games. Mortal Kombat stood strong up until MK9 when they stuck Freddy Krueger in there. And I know some people say, oh, but he fits because of the Dream Realm or some shit, but I don't give a fuck about that. It's a spot that could have been an MK character. I don't care. Right? I never cared. Right? If you want to sell your fucking pissant, stupid-ass guest characters, then make a separate pack and say, hey, if you want these, you can have them. And then you have some little button over there on the side that is exclusively, that when you click on it, it opens up a menu for guest characters or, say, creator fighters and stuff like that, right? Stop infecting my character select screen with this shit.
The guests have been absolutely amazing in terms of how they homage their influences. I simply think that the ratio of Mortal Kombat characters to guest characters in these expansions have gone completely out of whack. And keep in mind, for me personally, this has arguably been my favorite wave of guest characters in any MK. I really fucking enjoy each of these characters, so that really has to mean something if that's coming from a fan here. I don't think we needed all of these guest characters over the course of just 2 combat packs. Now, as for how the game plays, I can tell that opinions on this are gonna be like super divisive across the board, especially with cameos. But at its core, and I mean like its fundamental...
Let me guess. Let me guess here. He's gonna say he likes it? I just got a feeling. Just got a feeling.
Combo system, I think it's very good. I think it's very fun, it's very satisfying. MK1 does a lot for me mechanically because the core system's implemented.
Yes, but what about sexually? What does it do for you sexually? Don't worry about mechanically. Does it give you the chubby, bricky, you know, one-up? Right? Now listen, I'm just being funny here. Listen, I don't mind if people enjoy the game. I don't mind, right? I'm just making fun because I'm taking what he's saying and applying it to what I think about the game, and I'm just going, nah, this is shit. But I'm saying it's shit for me, right? People can enjoy it and do whatever the fuck they want. I don't care. It's your money, it's your time, right? But for me, nah. I wouldn't piss on this game if it was on fire. It was the last piece of entertainment on the planet, right? Because it doesn't play like a Mortal Kombat game. It plays like an Injustice game.
Are inherently very MKX in nature. They share a lot of similarities. However, the cameo system is where I do take issue with the game. Whilst I have enjoyed the system for the most part, it's very evident that the balance of this system has been a nightmare, as it's not even just the core base characters that are the issue, but what the cameos enable them to do. So whilst I think its core is very strong, I simply think that the cameo system really throws it all out of whack, creating a lot of issues that inherently go against the core of the game's system. But again, credit is given where it's due. The game has dramatically gotten better since release, with many of its issues like player one advantage being adjusted. So I will say in the game's current state, I think it's pretty good. Is it perfect? No, but it's much better than how it was on release, which again makes it all that much more frustrating that support is ending, because it's...
Well, I don't wait a year and 8 months or 9 months, right, for my game to get back to a point where it's like, to get to a point where the money feels like it's been well spent. It shouldn't take that long, ever, because no other product is it seems like to a degree, like if you're a fan of something, you're willing to forgive, you know, like anything that the company or the developer would do, right? Oh, they'll fix it, don't worry about it, you know, just stop being salty, right? And it's like, no, I paid money for this shit. I don't want to wait a year and 9 months, or a year and a half, or a year, even 6 months, 3 months, 3 weeks, right, for shit that like is so fundamentally broken or causing issues or whatnot. Nah, I got Doom the Dark Ages, right? I can play it for a little bit, then it freezes, right? I got to Control-Alt-Delete that shit. Load it up again, do it again. It's all random. My rig can handle that shit. My rig can eat that game for breakfast. But the software is so flawed and causing so many problems that it's nigh unplayable, because as soon as you start to enjoy yourself, it goes meh, and it freezes and you can't do anything. That's unacceptable. It is unacceptable.
It's taken us so long to get to a place where the game feels this good, only for it to end. It's just fucking disheartening, man. And it also doesn't help
No, I'm good. I'm not disheartened whatsoever.
that over the past few years, Ed Boon has noticeably gone down on record, saying that Mortal Kombat 1 will get a longer lifespan to that of prior titles. And you know what? I believe that, man. I know a lot of people are holding these words over Ed Boon's head, but I don't think that's fair. Because here's the thing. I believe that's what he wants. I believe that he believes in his product and wants to support it longer. But what I don't believe is that he's the person holding the leash here. That would be Warner Brothers. And
Oh boy, I do love this excuse. Listen, these people aren't hostages. Yes, it might go through certain things. Not every tiny piece of facet or decision making about how they wanted to design their game. You think the shareholders were sitting in a room one day and go, you know what, we need to make an assist system. Because everyone else is. Well, no one else was. Oh, okay. So it wasn't them then. No, this is Ed Boon doing what Ed Boon has done since MK Deadly Alliance. Trying to reinvent the wheel every fucking time. But when are you people going to start holding him accountable? As well. Not solely, but as well. It doesn't matter if he's a nice person. I'm the customer. He is the person providing the product. He is the face of Mortal Kombat. When he says things, right, people are going to believe it. And then you get this fucking type of apologetic rhetoric coming out going, oh, well, you know, it's not his fault. It's all Warner Brothers' fault. And yet these same people, I'm not saying he is, but the people out there going, oh yeah, it's terrible what Warner Brothers are doing, but they'll still lick their ass crack so they get, opportunities down the road.
And in a world where financial profit takes priority over anything else, it's simply not Ed Boon's call to make those shots. Especially with the recent price hike of games.
No. Don't deviate to stuff that we know that Warner Brothers is in charge of. Focus on the actual design decisions in the game. Redoing the story, character designs, customization, not including DLC and paid microtransactions. I mean, in the game itself, invasions, the story, everything that is involved that doesn't involve, say, Warner Brothers overseeing it going, all right, well, how can we monetize this?
And consoles across the globe. So once again, like I was before, I'm gonna have to be crystal clear and very transparent with you here. We just gotta stop asking for longer term support in these games, man. Because at this point, I guarantee you it's never happening. So with that said, what does NetherRealm do next? Do they bring back cameos?
Yeah, it's called bankruptcy. Yeah, make a new combat pack called bankruptcy.
Do they do full tag variations? Well, honestly, I think they can go down one of two paths here. One is to take us all back to basics, keep it easy, simple, and to the point. But if MK is really starved and desperate for a gimmick, why don't we bring back style switching from the free?
What I just experienced, let me try and give you a picture. This is going to be a visceral picture. You got this seemingly hot chick, right? You're taking the brassiere off. You got into the panties. He goes, let's make it simple. Shows MK9. You look at them panties, you go, baby. You take him down, and then he then says this shit. And you know what it is? There's your dick in there. Dick. Penis. Long dong. Thick wick. Whatever the fuck you want to call it. No! No gimmicks! No! Bad history behind the warrior. Bad boy. No!
3D games. They've never been implemented on a 2D plane. And let's face it, it's pretty uncommon for the L2 button to be utilized. I think this is a great alternative that makes it unique. And you could even...
So, Now, just to be clear, because I just had a brain fart, and I just want to make sure, like, we just want to make sure here, like, I'd be fine with that as a gimmick, like, as in, like, for example, a weapon mode, right? So you've got, like, your 1v1 standard. Then you've got a weapon mode where your punches and kicks are replaced with whatever weapon you decide to equip. You can choose from a katana, side, nunchuck, bow staff, joe staff, handbow, Kusarigama, 3 section staff, tonfa, karma, like, weighted chain. You can do all of this shit. And every time, like, you choose a weapon, right? And that replaces your punches and kicks. You still have access to your special moves, right? But now, instead of fisticuffs, it's weapon combat. That would be cool. Tag combat. That would be cool. Rework the cameo system so it becomes something like what Ed Boon originally said, where you've got like a drone for Sonya. This is his words. You had like a drone or something for Sonya that does drone shit for Sonya. And then he's like, oh, but we can't have that in Scorpion. Nah, fam. You don't put it on Scorpion. You make one for Scorpion. Right? Have some little shitheel demon come out. And, you know, maybe like make Scorpion catch on fire. So when they hit you, they're still taking damage. Or maybe, you know, it accesses another special move, right? And then that way the demon might shoot a fireball or something like that. It's all thematically correct, and it adds it adds on organically to the theme of the character. That would be fucking cool. You could have Jax, right? Where like Jax has some sort of like, I don't know what you can have, but basically his arms, his metal arms, actually change into different types of weapons. So instead of it being like fisticuffs, they might become blades, or they might become spinning like saws, or some crazy fuck shit like that. You know, like, but you make these as additional game modes, right? So think of it like mini games, but within the fighting game framework, right? So that way you go, oh, what cool thing can we do for this one and this one and this one and this one? So that way people have got fun stuff to play with that isn't so serious. And then they've got the actual 1v1 mode, which obviously would then be the thing that you would take to tournaments and play, you know, if you just want that vanilla experience.
Even fill in the weapon fighter side of the market that Soul Calibur has left behind. It's all right there. Now, a fighting game is only as good as the modes that come to accommodate it. Something to help feed that gameplay loop, and MK1 has really struggled in that department, my god. For a series that honestly thrived in its offline content, I'm both disheartened and really disappointed to say that MK1 really missed the mark here, in both its legacy modes and online modes. For a strictly offline player, this game is incredibly bare on release, having released with its standard story mode and arcade mode, with the new additions through the invasions and the shrine, modes that essentially function as a way.
Calling the shrine a mode is generous, bro. Generous. Right?
Way to fill the gap left behind by the crypt. But here's just the thing, right? You just kind of can't do that. The crypt is such an important part of MK's DNA. It isn't just complimentary of what Mortal Kombat has to offer as a product, but what the series has to offer beyond its fighting game mechanics. Truth be told, it was always going to be hard to top 11's crypt, but the answer was never to gut it into what we got here. So if there's one thing I do—
Well, essentially, like, so he goes, we can't have Conquest. Dude, the crypt in MK11 plays like Conquest. Except for all the questing and stuff, right? The simple fact that you've got a 3D, like, three-dimensional character, a generic three-dimensional character running around, okay, exploring everywhere. You just take that design philosophy and you make it worldwide. Or not, you know what I mean, like massive realms or whatever you want to do, right? That's what I do. That's what I thought Invasions was going to be. And then we get this fucking piss. And you know what this is? This isn't just the piss, man. This is the piss they leave on the toilet seat that you then have to wipe up because somebody's too fucking lazy to shake properly.
Hope they take away from the implementation of Invasions is that this is not a good replacement for the crypt. Whilst I praise the storytelling elements of Invasions, it's simply not enough to save that mode. But if they are to take anything from Invasions, is that I honestly hope that they take the storytelling elements and implement it into a future crypt mode. where each season a crypt is refilled with different skins for the players to unlock, and piece together a bit of story that's scattered and fragmented across the crypt. I don't know, I'm spitting.
I don't mind that actually. It kind of makes the crypt I'm in two minds about that. Like I like the idea of having a conquest mode, and within this online space, whether you play single player or enable it that you can see other players, you had parts of the world. So in Earthrealm, there's a crypt. And then eventually, when you go to the Outworld expansion, there'll be its own crypt, right? That's what I'd like, because then within that world, you could also have secrets and things to discover in other parts. You could go to, you know, it's not the living forest, but you could go visit forest areas where there might be like, you know, like some secret cave or something there that you can find, you know, cool shit in or whatever. So, like, I actually don't mind that. I actually like this idea about kind of like giving the crypt a little bit more of a flavor. I don't think I'd tie it to a character. I think that's one of the dangers that they've done here, because they only had a small select of characters that they did invasions with. So don't make it... And again, this is why I think it would work in Conquest, because in MMOs, when they drop new seasons and stuff, you usually get a new area to explore. They might add you know, certain like weapon sets or armor sets that you can get a hold of. Obviously, new main storyline and side quests, new NPCs to come across, new like enemies to come across. So if they weren't going to do Conquest, yes. If they were, then I would take the crypt and put it somewhere like, you know, somewhere in each realm, and make it very unique to that realm. And yeah, I mean, shit, man, you could have multiple. You could have one's a graveyard, one's an actual crypt in different locations, things like that. You know, there could be a crypt in, I don't know, like, I mean, just, I would go fucking nuts. If I could sit down with people that want to design this sort of stuff, I could talk all day about what you could do and how I would do it, because I play a lot of MMOs, and I can tell you right now, something like that would keep people engaged daily. They would be in there every day, questing, fighting, you know, doing dungeons and raids with their friends, you know, and you can put the storytelling that they've learnt from the cinematic side into that. So when you get to certain parts of the story, yay, we get a cutscene. But in between all that, just like in Conquest and Deception, there's a whole bunch of running around, there's a whole bunch of exploration and shit like that.
Spitballing the idea, but I really feel like something like that works.
I like that idea.
It's not all doom and gloom, because I will say that
yes,
Powers of Time has been a fantastic addition, allowing for a better alternative way to unlock content.
So I agree. Like, I even said it myself. I said this was far better. I said you could cut out invasions and just leave this here, and the game will have already improved. The problem is, though, is that they didn't tie gear to every tower. It's only so on the right there at the front, you've got like the seasonal tower, you got the normal arcade tower here in the middle, and then over here you've got like the legacy tower from previous seasons. Everything else outside of ones that may pop up at the back, they're just there for just XP. Like, they don't really do much, or stupid shit items that nobody gives a fuck about. With all of this, like this whole augments thing, or you know, oh, use this item in the talisman and stuff, and you can do. No one gives a fuck, man. No one gives a shit, right? Because they made all of that extra fluff and effort for invasions, which everyone hated. Because as soon as this dropped, it was like a much better mode by 100%. Now, I'm not against it as such, but you have got to put gear on every tower. Crystal clear. If you beat this tower, this is what you get. End of story. Right? Don't have fucking augments or anything like that. To be perfectly honest, I would actually make it so that every single tower, you could either turn on or off, like environmental hazards, things like that. You know, so that way, it's like, look, I don't want to deal with that piss. Just let me fight through the tower normally. And you can turn it on or off. Right? And maybe you can have incentives, perhaps, that if you turn it on, it might go, oh, we'll give you this gear, but also this additional extra XP or extra coin, right? So that way you can still get the gear regardless of which one you choose. But if you choose to have like the more harder option, it might give you extra XP or extra coins, you know, if you will.
As well as dragon crystals. It's by far an absolute step in the right direction, but what I find that is not acceptable is that this mode wasn't here on release, as both Injustice 2 and MK11 did have a multiverse and Towers of Time mode. Again, glad it's here, but it's shit like this that in my mind has never made it more clear that corners were cut to put this game out. Now from an online perspective, there are fundamental modes that are 100% lacking in my mind. And I think it's baffling to me that they aren't here, because there are modes that existed in prior titles that are simply scrubbed away. Not being able to go to a character select in the middle of a ranked match is quite frankly insane in my mind, as counterplay has always been a thing in Mortal Kombat games. Why is it that I can change my cameo but not my character?
Yeah.
That is like something so incredibly basic. And talking of basic here, what happened to rooms and lobbies? One of the best parts of these games was the social elements of.
I wasn't a big fan of MK11, but you have to admit that as a product, bookended, it was excellent in what it offered in terms of like being a product, right? So I wasn't a fan of a whole bunch of things MK related, right? But I can appreciate that from start to finish, it had its roster, whether you liked it or not. It had its graphics, sound effects, content, online modes, whether you like it or not. It did a lot more for the consumer than MK1 did.
Of them. And I will say on my side of things, as a content creator, one of the reasons why lobbies are so important is because it served as an incredible way for me to interact with my community.
Yeah, so I know I keep rabbiting on about this. Grand Blue Fantasy Versus Rising is the best fighting game right now. It has more content than every other fighting game out there, almost combined actually. It is insane, the amount of shit in that game. It has the main game, massive roster of characters, tons of stages, great arcade mode where you can choose the difficulties and different characters you can fight against. You've got your story mode, you've got a survival mode that's in there now, you've got all your online modes, including setting up a room or going on into the actual lobby section. Like the other day, right? So some of the boys didn't have at that point the bought version. They only had the free-to-play version, and they couldn't join a room. So we just said, oh, we'll just go meet up in this lobby. We went to North America Lobby 3, and we just hung out where the arcade machines and just took turns. You know, it was almost like the digital equivalent of going to the arcade. It was great, right? MK1 is so bare bones that bare bones had more meat on them.
Simple way to engage with viewers through lobbies instead of having to put someone's name in. It was the best way to stream this game, and now it's gone. Yeah, there's an invite system, but I honest to fuck cannot be bothered to type in Wiener Lord 5000 or Chode Your Mama to play them. It's really stupid. And along with this, other basic modes like online training mode are still gone. How is training mode available in game but not online training? And don't get me wrong, some of the new replay stuff they have is fucking amazing. I hope NetherRealm sticks with that. That is a great addition. But its release came at such a far point in the game's lifespan that I don't think people are willing to lab it outside of the competitive players. And don't even get me started on the Warrior Shrine, man. We waited for an entire year for a glorified leaderboard.
Yeah.
If that was really all it ever was, then it never should have been in game in the first place. In fact, I'm willing to go out on a leg here, but something else must have been planned for this in early development before it was then scrapped and turned into what it is now. Now, onto our final piece here. I can't lie, since Injustice 2, it's kind of baffled me how we've regressed in terms of customization within the series. Stats and loot boxes aside, the multiverse unlock system felt very complimentary from what you expect from an offline mode in an NRS game. It felt very rewarding where every fight would matter. I do think they went a tad bit overboard in terms of the number of different customization options, but the character skins really did show that there was a lot of personality that could be applied to the quality of the game. And like,
She looked better with the glasses on, then she turned into like a middle-aged Karen, right? And I don't want this customization back, just so we're clear, on a character. I don't want to be able to customize Scorpion to having different colors and different gear pieces. I want just standard outfits. Just do a standard outfit, but take all of this technology, all of it, that you've done with the details, with customizations and stuff, because it is very impressive, not going to lie. Take all of that and put it into Creator Fighter. and let people go nuts, just like in Soul Calibur 6. Just do that. And then just give us just the outfits for the standard characters on the roster itself.
Like, from this point onwards, we've had less and less options from 11 to 1. Yeah, being able to change a mask is cool, but it doesn't do nearly enough to affect the overall design. And in fact, it really doesn't help that a majority of quote-unquote skins in the game are simply color palette swap attires of the same 3 costumes. Actual skins that should be accessible that we want though, through let's say something like DLC passes, are instead paywall locked behind the goddamn store. And keep in mind that those are the skins that do dramatically change the overall appearance. I find it incredibly gross how the one way to acquire them is through dragon crystals, a limited currency you can earn in game until you crumble and buy the currency yourself. And currently, as of making this video, a perfect example of this being insanely whack is how you can spend said crystals to get the movie skins, which are said to be part of the definitive edition. You are essentially paying for a glorified early access pass to skins.
Yep.
Like, that's crazy to me. And
Yep.
this whole situation has venomously poisoned the atmosphere of Mortal Kombat, hitting the community in a really fucking bad way. I can only speak on my behalf as a YouTube only creator, as I don't stream, but I'll be very transparent when I say that covering this game has been an absolute nightmare.
I think just to add in here, like, I know it's like, I mean, I'm very passionate about Mortal Kombat, which is why you see a lot of negative stuff about MK, because I can't fucking deal with it. I gotta get it out of my system. But in saying that though, one of the greatest things about this downfall is that hopefully, with any luck, we will go back up, right? You know, this is rock bottom. And there's only one way to go when you hit rock bottom, right? So, and maybe, just maybe, some of these things need to happen. We've seen this once before with the 3D era and MK vs DC. We saw MK9 be the glory, you know, the love letter to the fans, to Mortal Kombat. Everyone was happy. Everyone was winning. It was just a great time to be an MK fan. Everyone was involved, you know, whether you're a pro, whether you're a big MK fan, and even tourists coming in. It was amazing. You guys, if you guys were there when it was going on, you have no idea how fucking awesome it was to wake up every day and load up MK9 and look at it and go, shit, I'm getting fucking goosebumps, man. Look at this shit. Look at the hair sticking up, right? You have no idea how great it was. And I want that magic back. I'm going to be in my early 50s, I think, by the time we next get a Mortal Kombat game. If they make another game, or they sell out or go under, I'm probably going to be in my early 50s by the time we get, you know, and I'm 48 this year. You know, and that's fine. Like, I'm still going to have the same energy, but like, it's just, it's kind of crazy when I think back to when MK was so good, you know, and MK9 was what, 2011. So that's 14-ish, give or take, years ago. And in 14 years, it has come to this. Wow.
This game is by far the least fun I've ever had covering a game, because having nuance and being critical of a game you like has become a lost fucking art form. You can't say you like a game without being a shill, and you can't say you hate a game without looking like a hater. Like, where's the fucking line at this point?
I agree. You know, and I've probably misread certain people, obviously, and that's perfectly fine because, you know, it's just, it is what it is. You know, tensions get, you know, can get inflamed, things like that. But I always advocate, if people really want to talk to me, just come talk to me. You know, come talk to me, ask my opinion. You know, when you're doing a video, you know, it's a lot different to having a chat, you know, because you're here to entertain a little bit as well. And, I get really worked up when the camera goes on, but I'm pretty relaxed off it, you know. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, people can be critical and love stuff in different ways. I've never criticized people for liking the game. I just wanted people to be honest. When you've got their community sitting there going, hey, look at this problem, look at this problem, look at all these people who are upset with it, and they just ignore it. Now, that's their choice, of course. But at the same time, if you are a prominent creator, like some of these really massive guys, then it's okay. Like, I think it's almost like they're terrified that by being honest, something bad's going to happen. Yeah, maybe you get the door closed on Warner Brothers, but who needs Warner Brothers? Who needs NetherRealm? Who cares? The strongest position you have is the customer. That's the only strength that matters. That's the only thing that matters, right? Because when you don't need anything else, you're free. You're not tied to trying to behave or do this or do that.
Constructive criticism, in my mind, has been lost in the discourse of talking and covering this game. Because look, why do you think all of a sudden your big mainstay channels associated with MK no longer upload MK1 content on a frequent basis? Is it because they're no longer shills, or is it because the discourse surrounding the game has stripped any sense of fun covering it?
Here's my theory on that, right? I think that yes, some people have been shills. Some, not all. Some people have been shills, right? Whether they have been ignorantly ignoring these issues, but knowing deep down they exist, or they were simply just smitten, you know, like the honeymoon period, right? You can go both ways. And then after a while, but then some things also, like there's issues here too, but after a while they go, oh yeah, there's issues, there's problems. But you notice how, like, it's kind of like this knock-on effect. As soon as one starts calling it out, then all the other subsequent ones in their field of view start doing the same thing. So it kind of looks a little sus, right? Now, I call out shit whenever the fuck I feel like it, because this is how I operate. It's how everyone should operate. Don't be scared about being cut off with stuff. Be passionate. People love seeing the passion. They love seeing you being real. Even if they disagree, they know where you stand and they can trust that you're being honest and upfront about how you feel about stuff. You don't have to know everything. You're just being honest with your feelings. And that's perfectly fine and acceptable, right? And maybe some of these people, you know, like, yeah, obviously some are, you know, absolutely shills. And some of them are, you know, maybe towing the line because, you know, they're kind of stuck between that, I do like it, but man, something feels off kind of thing. Then you get people like me who go, nah, fuck it. Same with Total MK, Rumble Race TV, so many others. TW Booty Hunter, right? Godly. All of these guys, and I could go on and on and on. All these people call this shit out because they don't want to stand for it. They're not going to wait until they look around. Oh, is it okay? Can we say something now? Can we say something now? Okay, let's say something. Don't be a fucking pansy. You're going to be all right. I can tell you, I'm not an expert, right? I get that. But one thing I do know is that your audience appreciates authenticity. That's the greatest currency that you can have. And when you're a liar and a grifter and a con artist and a shill, people see right through that. Even if it's not now, they see it down the track. Eventually, it all comes undone.
This is the only MK to date that I've known content creators to retire from. At this point, we're all caught in this goddamn vicious cycle. And this is a perfect example of a game that was promised to deliver so much that did far too little too late. It had all the ingredients and all the potential in the world to be NRS's strongest title, and it's anything but that. Which is why I find it so unbelievably frustrating, considering all they had to do was take the best elements of their prior titles and put it into one neat package.
As I keep saying, to fix the future, you gotta look to the past.
In my mind, what sucks here the most is the unbridled potential this game had to offer, and now it's all simply just going to be tossed aside into the ether as NetherRealm is forced to roll out yet another title. As for what's next from the studio, I don't know. I know Max has been talking about MK vs DC, and I have been hearing some rumblings about an Injustice 3. We'll simply have to wait and see. Until then though, this has been it for my largely long-winded rant. I'm sorry this has taken so long to come out, but I really do have a lot of thoughts on this overall situation that I wanted to kind of tightly knit together into one coherent video. I don't like dogpiling on MK1, much the opposite, as it's effectively the cool fucking trend to do at this point, but I do feel like some actual—
Well, I disagree with that, right? Because, like, I remember somebody told me once that Fate, you're anti-algorithm. And I know why they said it. Because I don't follow trends. This is what I'm saying about being genuine, right? Is that just if you're yourself, then because you're not beholden to going, oh, well, which way is the wind blowing? You can just speak your mind. And some people may not like it, and that's perfectly fine. It is an open forum, not an echo chamber. Everyone has the opportunity to either watch or not watch. Everyone has the opportunity to comment or not comment. It is an open platform for all to view and engage with. Be honest. Share your thoughts. Don't wait for the wind to blow. Don't get in there and search for what's trending. What should I talk about? Right? But there are some people that will dogpile because the winds have changed and like, oh, it's acceptable to do that now. Right? And it's like, well, why didn't you do this when there were actual issues going on? That's all.
Actual critical nuance to this situation that has been lost. And at this point, this shit's just not fun. Whilst other content creators haven't said it, I will. Anyway, here's hoping it gets better, because if it doesn't, well, I won't be here for the next game.
So, that was actually a good video. That was actually a pretty good video. Some things, some of the ideas that were posted in there I actually did like. I thought that was very cool. But yeah, I'll post a link in the description. Please go check out History Behind the Warriors video. And yeah, we'll catch you guys next time. See ya.